On this day in history, 2001, authorities confirmed a tabloid editor in Florida had contracted anthrax. Now that's a really rough day at work. Sometimes I have no idea how I'm going to make it through any given workday. Then I remember I have beers waiting for me at home. I can do this for them. Live from Wattpad Nation, it's the Corner Booth, your weekly live chat where we talk about all things Wattpad. My name is Nat, and I am your moderator for this incredible panel of ladies that we have. And just to let you know, if this is your first time watching a broadcast, we introduce our panel using this amazing thing called the High Five. And I'm just going to kind of get this going. And I know one of them, Michelle Hayes, has not played this game ever. It's a game called Scattergories, and hopefully you guys, have a good time with this. Essentially, what's going to happen is, and we do hope that you play along with us. You are going to see a list on my screen, and I'll share it with everybody, and it will have 12 categories. Now, I will pick a random letter of the alphabet. And to fulfill each category, you have to have a word that starts with the letter that has been selected. So if the category is vegetables and the letter is C, then, of course, cauliflower. Or Kelly, do you have another one?
Carrot.
Carrot. Rita?
Celery.
Ooh.
Jessica?
That's what I was going to pick.
So anyways, okay, Jessica needs a timeout already. Essentially what happens is you have 60 seconds to fill up this list of 12. So I'm hoping that this gets uber competitive and these ladies just hash it out to the bitter end. I think right now, as far as games go, because we played one last week, and I think Kelly's kind of reigning champ right now. So let's see if somebody can dethrone her. Okay, let me get this all set up, and like I said, we are hoping that you participate in the live chat. Please play along with us. You can message us anytime there. If you're watching this as a recording, you can either use the comments down below or use our hashtag on Twitter, TCBWatt. Now, that being said, let's see if I can get over to the right screen. All right, ladies, are you ready?
I think so.
All right, here's the list.
Oh.
Go.
Wait, what's our letter?
Oh, I am so sorry. Your letter is...
Kelly's got to win.
It's P. Letter P as in Paul.
Oh. And what's the category?
There are 12 categories right here.
Oh, okay, there it is. I see it now, sorry. And I can pick one?
No, you have to do all 12.
Are you kidding?
I am not.
Oh, gosh. This is hard.
You can do it. I believe in you. We are 30 seconds in, ladies.
Oh, my gosh. I quit.
No! What would Eminem do? He would be so disappointed right now. And time. Pen down.
Bloody hell.
I'm really curious on how this is
I epically failed.
That was hard.
Thank you.
That was difficult.
Oh, okay, hang on. Let's see. Ricky Pine is. I think he's playing. Imay's here too. Hello, Imay. And then we got our Jody, Carl. What's up? Hopefully you guys are having fun with this. Okay, so the first number was fictional characters. So, like I said, we are introducing this panel to you tonight. Miss Rita Kovach, can you just go down the list and tell us what you got?
Okay, so for fictional character, I had Peter Pan.
Ooh, 2 points.
Good, Miss Rita.
And then the second one was food, right? So pepperoni pizza.
Ooh.
Yes. Number 3, magazines.
People.
Okay.
Magazine. The capital, Paris. 5 was a confectionery, so it's pastiche. A confectionery? I don't know. That's like the first word that came to mind. I don't
Is
even
it
know.
candy? Is it really candy?
I don't know. Someone
I didn't
Google
get one
it.
for that.
6.
Does somebody want to fact check this?
Yes, please. 6 was something that you save up to buy. You save up pennies.
Ooh, okay. Well, yeah.
I mean, maybe that's not what you were looking for, like what you're buying, but you save up pennies. 7 and 8, blank. In a suitcase, pants.
Okay.
Something with a tail, pets. If you'll take that.
Yeah, that's fine. Sports.
And then nothing for 11 and 12.
Okay, so I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 for Rita.
Yes.
All right. We're going to go over to the quitter, Michelle Hayes.
I don't like this game.
Oh, come on.
Okay, so for the first one, I have Pippa Longstocking.
Okay.
Second one, I have Pancakes. The third, People Magazine. Fourth, I thought of Perry 2. 5, completely drew a blank. 6, same thing. 7, okay, I was reaching here. Puddle Boots.
Why not?
I don't know.
I would have thought somebody would have said pumps.
Oh. Yeah.
Okay, anyways.
And so 8, completely blank. 9, because I want to be proper, I'm going to say pantyhose.
Okay.
That's all I have. You were going too fast.
Hey, 60 seconds was 60 seconds for everybody. Come on.
Okay, I epically failed. That's okay.
It's okay. It's okay. Miss Kelly Ann Blount. And could you beat Miss Kovach?
Let's see. Okay, I also have Peter Pan.
Okay, 2 points.
Then I have Pretzels. People Magazine. Also have Paris. Can you use a color like purple Laffy Taffy? Or no?
You're reaching there, but I'll give it to you.
Or like purple Kool-Aid, because you really don't call it grape, let's be honest. Things you save up for. I have a purse or a Puerto Rican cruise. I'm going to go see Aimee. I didn't get one for 7. What was 8?
Something you keep hidden.
Oh, a purse.
You use purse twice?
Well, that's what I came up with.
I guess, yeah.
That's my second go-around. I pack pants.
Okay.
A panther has a tail. A puck for sports equipment. Hockey puck, like they play in Minnesota.
Mm-hmm.
And then kind of got scribbly.
Okay, that's a good crime, I guess. Scribbly.
Predatory. Predator.
Oh, predator. Oh. Okay.
Predators. I don't
Oh,
know.
man. Okay, well, I'm going to tie you with Rita right now. Jessica
tired of
B.
counting.
Fry.
All right. I have Pollyanna.
Okay.
First one. Then Pappardelle a la Peppers.
Ooh.
For the magazine Powerhouse. For number 4, I also thought of Perry. It was all I could think of. That's like, there's only one. Confection Peppermints. And then something you save up for, printing presses. I really want an antique printing press. Then I didn't have anything for 7. And then for number 8, I hide punching gloves. I don't know if it counts, but
Yeah, yes.
He was purple.
those
Purple
hidden.
punching gloves.
That's right, purple punching gloves. Let's see. For number 9, things you pack in a suitcase, I have paper pads because you can't get enough of your notepads there. And then 10, Pachumi Monkey. And didn't have anything for 11. And for 12, plagiarism. The most heinous of all crimes ever.
And I didn't think Jessica Fry took the cake.
Yes,
Wow, that's
We need to
awesome.
crown her. Good job, Jessica.
Congratulations. So we hope that you had fun with that. It's just a little silly, fun thing that we do every single week, which brings us to our second part of the broadcast, which is called Cream or Sugar. My favorite part of the broadcast is because we put you, Wattpad Nation, in the spotlight. This panel highlights what they've been reading this week, and they give a little cream, or no, I'm sorry. Let me back up. We either talk about the cream that has risen to the surface, be it a new Wattpadder who is just giving it their first stab, or trying it out for the first time. Maybe trying to seek out an audience, maybe just doing it for fun. but it does wow these people. Or we're talking about Wattpadders who have been around for a while, and we're just throwing a little sugar at them. So I'm going to go in the same order. Miss Rita, who do you have this week for cream or sugar?
Okay, so today I want to highlight a less-known writer on Wattpad in my cream shout-out. Her handle is Tessa Loves Gem. Ooh, cool. And the title of her book is Monster. This book came to my attention recently because it's on the Crimson Peak movie promotional reading list under historical horror. And you can see that pretty red sticker right there on the cover. This story is of a young English woman named Elsa who is living with her father in 1820s Poland. And her father is the leader of a secret vampire hunting society. And Elsa soon becomes entangled in their activities through not only one of their handsome members, called Ronan, but also through a ruthless vampire that he's hunting. This is the perfect read leading up to Halloween this month, not only because of its perfectly set historic atmosphere, but also because of the author's vivid descriptions and fast-paced storytelling. Again, this is Monster, and you can see it's by Tessa Loves Gem, so check it out.
Thank you, Miss Rita. Miss Michelle, who do you got?
Okay, I have two this week. First one is my cream, and the moniker is Banana Brianna. The title of the book is called The Woman's Guide to Totally Sucking.
It's just a brilliant title. I love that title.
It really is. It drew me in. And the genre is romance. The title grabbed me. I thought it was hysterical, first of all. But when delving a bit into the prologue, it's about a woman that starts a blog to ease her frustration, but instead she ends up with a whole slew of problems. So I hope you guys check her out. My sugar, her moniker is Thoughts on Paper. The title of the book is Losing Cinderella, and it's in the genre chick lit. The reads are remarkable as they have scaled over 2.3 million. So quick synopsis, there's a young girl named Ashton who carries a secret about herself. She is gifted and deemed a celebrity. She craves a different path in life and leaves her past behind her, entering into a new world in hopes to keep that secret hidden. Until she meets Mr. Hunk, who is that's not really his name, and he does everything in his power to keep her out of the world she desires to be in. The author is very established and one that is a Wattpad asset. She interacts, she's well-versed, and is the epitome of Wattpad community. Hope you guys check both of those authors out.
Oh, thank you, Miss Michelle. Kelly, who you got for us?
So I have a sugar, and it's by Steve Bevel. I found Steve after he was one of the participants in one of the Wattpad block parties, and so I finally had some time to check out some of his work, and it is really awesome. I started reading The Legend of the Firewalker, which is one of his books. So I love a good fantasy novel. I like to read it. I like to write it. So when I picked up, or opened, I should say, The Legend of the Firewalker by Steve Bevel, it had it all. Murder, mystery, fantastic characters, check, check, and check. Steve has a beautiful writing style, and I quickly found myself drawn in. I'm excited to see where the Steve story goes, and I definitely recommend it to other fantasy lovers. And without giving too much away, I wanted to read you the synopsis. Teenagers with supernatural powers, a college town deep in folklore, murder, and mystery, a vengeful secret order, and fallen angels with dark and powerful forces that will stop at nothing to find the one they seek. Dun dun dun.
Yes, Jessica Fry. That's awesome, Kelly. And I think it's really cool that you also found him through the Wattpad block party, which is that's a great avenue to find amazing authors. Miss Jessica Fry, who do you got for us?
This week I have Stephanie Saul, her story, The Hall of Games. She's entered it in the Waddies this year. I just started it, but I'm really enjoying it. It revolves around Katie. She and her brother Josh go to Havoc Haven, which is a Halloween carnival that's famous for its mystery, magic, and mayhem. There's disembodied voices, chills, thrills, and folks known as the Keepers, who are just as creepy as you'd expect with a name like that. And I really love her tagline. It's right here. This is magic. This is darkness. This is the Hall of Games. It just makes me want to read even more of it. So I've only gotten into a few chapters, but it's been quite good so far. It's great for a creepy story, and quite enjoying it.
Awesome. Well, thank you, Miss Jessica. And that brings us over to the part of the broadcast which we call the entree. And it is a series of questions that I deliver to this panel every single week. And Tonight, we are doing something called the importance of the second string. Now, to expound on that, the best stories not only have amazing protagonists, but spectacular secondary characters. And so, how are you supposed to craft these unsung heroes? This is what we're going to address tonight. So, I am going to actually go over to Miss Blount. I'd like you to share with us what the term secondary characters means to you.
Okay, absolutely. So when I first read over this question, I was like, well, anyone who is in a main character. And then I was like, wait a minute. That kind of includes a lot of characters. And if someone just quickly says hi in the grocery store in your novel, are they a full-fledged secondary character? So I started to do a little bit of research online, and I found this really cool blog. It's called At Quill's Point, Advice for Aspiring Characters. And I just want to read you a little bit of what I found, and then what I think, just expanded a little on that. So it says secondary character. You have your hero and your villain, but it's hard to set up with a story with just those two characters. Secondary characters populate your world and help move the story along. There are two main subclasses of secondary characters, supporting characters and minor characters. Minor characters exist primarily for the purpose of making the story more interesting and more relatable, because a world without people seems flat and hollow. The story could still be told without them, it would just be harder. By contrast, supporting characters are essential to the plot. They play a direct role in the plot and have heavy impact on the storyline. So what I really drew from that is that all characters playing a minor role or a main role should have a purpose. All of your characters must have a purpose. The secondary character's purpose will impact the plot, and they are heavily important to your work. And if your character doesn't play a part in the story or in the plot, then why are they there? Is something that I find myself, while writing. It's like, wait a minute, is this character playing a role in the story? Is it helping propel it forward? If not, then you might not need them. Mm-hmm. So, and one thing that I found is that kind of what was pointed out here is secondary characters often serve as a way to relate. So be it through a silly joke or, something terrifying that happened and they screamed, just something that you would find yourself doing is often, something that you can relate with a secondary character, because sometimes in our stories, if your main character, like in some of mine, are like evil villains, I might not relate to that so much. However, I might relate to the sister or, the brother or the best friend. So I think secondary characters are super important, but just make sure they have a point and, an important role in your story.
Yeah, purpose, that's a pretty big deal, Absolutely. I can agree with that. So, next to Kelly, we have the denotation and connotations in place as far as secondary characters go. So, let's talk about crafting these characters. What do you do first when it comes to creating your main character's support system? And I'm going to start with Miss Michelle Hayes.
Ruby. All right. This is what I have. Okay, for me, I think it's essential to have some supportive sidekicks to the main characters. I feel that they help build and strengthen the storyline. I strive to have them well developed with their own quirks, personalities, gifts, etc. I want my supporting characters to help my protagonist along, to show empathy toward her, lift her, make her angry, all the things that humans do. But that also depends on the storyline too. I feel that they should bring a certain richness to the story, a sense of normalcy. After all, when we write and we are creating a fiction world, we want our reader to be inside that world when reading the work. Thus, we need to have the normal things in life, aka the best friend, the coworker, the brother, neighbor, sister, etc. That's what I do. I just make them real.
And I think it works pretty well. Michelle's writing book 2 of a series that started with a novel called How Deep the Roots Go. And congratulations for finishing that, Michelle. I saw the cover of the second book, and it looks unreal. Can you give just a shout-out for the person that does your cover?
I pay the girl, my graphic designer.
I would pay them too, because they're crazy good.
Crazy good. She is gifted. I found her, if anybody's interested, check out Deviant Art. It's what it's called. It's a website. And I found her there. Her name is Consuelo Pera. And she not only is gifted, but she's incredibly patient. Because let me tell you, I changed the title's name like I don't know how many times, a lot. But she's super talented. I'm blessed to know her. I'm going to continue with her through my next book as well.
Yeah, I would too, because she's
she's
just
good.
awesome.
Yeah, she's in Spain. She's in Spain.
Yeah,
So
you know, there's some art over there. They've had some pretty good artists come out of Spain.
When we correspond, she has to use a translator with my emails.
Oh.
So
Well, I mean, evidently it's getting translated right because...
I think so. I'm glad you like it. Thank you.
Absolutely. Miss Rita, can you answer question number 1 for us?
Absolutely. So, like you said, and Kelly and Michelle both said, unless your main character is a hermit, she'll need to interact with others. So these supporting characters need to be realistic. This means that their relationship with the main character needs to make sense, whether they're a friend or confidant, an employee, a henchman, an enemy, a foil, an antagonist, a rival, a partner, or a love interest. So these closest and already existing relationships are the ones that I usually craft first when I'm writing. And it's important to keep in mind that these characters will need to be interesting, or dare I say diverse, in their own right, so that they'll stand out from one another and other characters. And also, don't create a character just to have them, and I think Kelly pointed this out. They need to be relevant because you'll ultimately need to use them to either provide a backstory or to drive the plot. So unless personally I have a story completely planned out, I will keep from elaborating on many characters until I need them. For example, in The Pirate King and I purposefully didn't even give an exact number of sailors that were on the ship, nor give them all names until I came to the part of the story where I needed one of them to do something specific. So I introduced them bit by bit like this, which served as several purposes, including helping to avoid overwhelming the reader by introducing too many characters all at one point. And it also helped me to come up with their specific roles until they were needed. And one last thing, don't forget that your supporting characters don't have to be human, and I'm not talking about trolls and such if you're writing a fantasy. Even in contemporary settings, you could easily have a pet or even a location, like a spooky house, be a supporting character in your story.
Absolutely, and I believe you had a cat in The Pirate King and I.
Yep.
That was relatively popular among readers.
She was, yes. So Ginger the cat was a kitten that the main character came upon a little bit before halfway through the story, and there were several main plot twists that she was involved in. So she did have a purpose, but after a while, you know, most of the comments when something happened were about the cat, of oh no, I hope the cat's okay, and things like that. Which, you know, it's great because it meant that she not only was doing her job, but, you know, people were liking her for it too. So, you know, that was great.
It just goes to show that, you know, you don't have to have a whole lot of dialogue come out of the character to make a very good supporting character.
Yep.
And I'm going to bounce over to Miss Jessica B. Fry, who specializes in all things mythological, it seems like. And the thing about mythology is the fact that there are tons and tons of characters with the richest backstories that you could possibly imagine. So I'm really curious what you have for this, Jessica.
Well, one of the things that I do is I first look at the kind of relationships that my main characters are likely to develop along the way, and the people they're most likely inclined to run into, and I just start making a list of that. Now, if I know the plot, sometimes I'll just start writing key scenes from these secondary characters' perspectives. Never makes it into the final draft, but I get to see how do they view the world, how do they taste it, experience, engage with it. And other times, I just like to ask questions like, what would they be doing if they weren't hijacked into this adventure? Or who do they like more than the protagonist? And if no one, well, why is that? Or what leads to this character following along or participating in the way he does? And then I just follow the same steps for building up my secondary characters that I do for a primary character. It's not a magic formula, it just takes some more time. Because at their core, I think that really a lot of your secondary characters, particularly as Kelly mentioned, the supporting cast, they should have as much development and establishment as the primary characters, even if a lot of that information doesn't come through in the story right away. So to put a spin on a really popular villain quote, I like to remember that secondary characters are always primary characters in their own stories.
I like that. That's awesome. Thank you, Jessica. Miss Kelly, can you wrap us out? You're on mute.
Sorry, here we go.
You're good.
So, am I answering, do you read a spinoff?
Oh, no. It's, we're still on question number 1.
Just wrapping it up. Sorry.
Right. What do you do first when it comes to creating your main character's support system?
Okay. So basically, when I start writing my main character, I like to think about their world and their life. And kind of what Jessica was saying, what would they be doing just, on a regular day? And I'm reading a really great series by Brandon Mull right now. And in the series, the main character is essentially swept off. He actually goes through a hippopotamus, but he travels to another world, and it's like, he's supposed to be at baseball practice, and here he is suddenly in this other world, and he is like thrust into this super important role, and it's like, wait a minute. Well, of course he could go on by himself. However, as Brandon Mull does, which is so fantastic, is he has, this character, he has his friends at home, which are, kind of just supporting characters, but then he gets into this new world and he has all of these new friends and enemies that he meets, and all of a sudden the world has been built because of the amazing characters in it. So I think that secondary characters play a major part in world building because seeing the story through their eyes and not necessarily what they're thinking, but the dialogue they have is super important. So something that might be odd and like especially in a fantasy book, if the character's like, what is that fruit, or what is that, do you eat that, what is that, the secondary character can be like, oh, well, that's a lyra berry, duh, and can talk to him about it. So just there you've helped build the world. Your character might think, ooh, it's red, it's shiny, it looks like a cherry, what is this? And then the secondary character helps fill in those missing blanks. So I think that it's really, really helpful for world building. And again, if you don't need them, if they don't serve a purpose, then keep them out of there. It'll bore your readers.
Or kill them off, Kellyanne Blount style.
Or if you're having a really bad day, they totally can be off. It's okay.
I think it also really solidifies tone. And when you're telling, let's say, a horror story, those secondary characters can just make it so much deeper and give it so much more dimension, and there's something really, really great about that. So I'm going to kind of elaborate on this a little bit further. Michelle and Rita, this kind of I'm kind of putting you in the hot seat with this. This is the scenario. Your readers are more interested in your secondary character than your protagonist. Is this a good thing or a bad thing? And what should you do? Michelle, I'm going to start with you.
Okay. I want my reader to connect with my secondary characters. It's important to have that bond there. However, if I feel that the secondary characters are taking over the protagonist's lead role, then I need to go back to the drawing table and revise. I want a certain affection for them, but I do not want it to overshadow the protagonist. So I'd be panicking a little bit.
Oh, absolutely. Well, okay. Let me ask it in this way too. If you're publishing to Wattpad and you're doing it through serialization,
yes.
Would you completely scrap a chapter, or would you tell everybody? Would you give everybody a heads up? Hey, I completely changed this, or how would you go about doing that?
I would just go back and revise and update.
Yeah, what you read earlier? That didn't happen.
That's what I would do.
It's a figment of your imagination.
Yes, what are you talking about now? I don't think I would completely. I pay attention to that when I'm writing, though. I want to make sure, because I read too, and I pay attention to, as I'm writing, how those characters can enrich my protagonist, and I really am in that world when I'm writing. So I hope to not make a big error where the protagonist is being overshadowed by my secondary characters. But if
Michelle, I think you're doing just fine.
Delicate revision, okay? It'd be a delicate revision.
Temperance Augustine's doing just fine, Michelle. No worries. No
I'm not like
worries.
Kelly where she'd be like killing people off. I haven't done that yet. I need to. I need to kill
It's a
people.
very like sometimes I get scared around Kelly. It's just I mean
I know she
I don't want to say the
knows.
wrong thing and then have it be a catalyst for her
Yeah.
to just go off on a wild tangent and kill off some character and then she comes back months later. You want to know why I killed off this character? Because of what you
A
said
bad day.
that one day. What about you, Miss Rita?
Well, I like the fact that Michelle used the word overshadow because I was thinking the same thing, that interest in a supporting character is great, but that character shouldn't overshadow the main character in her story. So if that happens, you may be doing something wrong. But I think the easiest time to fall into this predicament maybe when your main character has a sidekick. So, and a sidekick is a companion who may be subordinate to the main character, and in some instances may turn out to be more popular than the hero. They're there to provide conflicting points of view, alternative skills, or comic relief, and through their interactions with the main character, allow for greater exposition in the story. But their popularity isn't necessarily a problem, so don't take it that way until it does take away from the story. So that I think that's where you kind of have to be on the lookout of, is your supporting sidekick turning out to be the more interesting focus? And if they are, then maybe you need to kind of look at your story again and have them be the main character, because if that's what they're telling you, then just listen to that.
Absolutely. I think that's a really good kind of just tag to put at the end of what you just said, was listen to your readers, because they give you some of the best direction as far as if you lose your bearings or you lose sight of something. It's always interesting to, I think one of the biggest, I don't know if it was a mishap technically or it was just something that they kind of ran with, but during How I Met Your Mother, when that was still on air, Neil Patrick Harris was not the lead of that sitcom, but anytime that you saw it advertised, he was the person on the the TV guide or the commercial or anything like that. It was wow, this is what you can do with secondary characters. So I don't know, maybe that was supposed to happen, maybe not, I don't know. Okay, we are going to head over to the second question. How do you bring in details about your secondary characters without info dumping? That terrible, terrible word. Jessica, if you would, before we dig into this question, if you could please define what info dumping actually is, and maybe provide us a few examples of the writing no-no.
Okay. Well, info dumping is something I found when writing fantasy and sci-fi I am especially guilty of. It's a common problem. It occurs basically when the writer decides to dump the reader's all that information into the reader's lap all at once. Sometimes it's just a paragraph, but there's a ton of telling and it's very dense. Other times it's a couple pages. But either way, it can cause problems, and one of the cardinal rules in writing fiction, particularly modern fiction, is that you shouldn't bore your readers. So oftentimes, even though the information can be important, the way it's given is boring, it breaks the connection with the reader, gives them an excuse to skim or stop reading, and oftentimes it's just presented in a clumsy or jarring way. And what makes it even worse is by the time they're done, the reader isn't going to remember it. Maybe they're not even going to read it at all. But I will say sometimes it can be used effectively. There are exceptions, but let's say for now the general rule is don't. There's a better way for you to present that information. And I've found 7 common areas where it comes up. The beginning of a story, introducing a backstory, introducing alien or fantasy races, demonstrating how abilities work, rules and laws, personality traits and characters, and introducing technology. So what you need to do is make sure that what you're putting into the story is necessary information for that time and that it's shared in an engaging way. You need to show what you can, sprinkle the rest of the information throughout the narrative as it's necessary, and ask yourself, if this was removed from the story right now, could the reader still follow? If the answer is yes, you should consider removing it. If not, then cut it down to the bare minimum, and remember that oftentimes dialogue and character actions allow you to convey so much. And speaking from experience, I mean, it's hard, but you have to remember that sometimes what you know as an author doesn't have to be shared with the reader. I was so proud in Tura. I had compiled a history of more than 600 years of all of these nations, and I was thrilled about it. I wanted so much for everyone to know it, and I was putting out all of these needless facts. I mean, nobody really needed to know what was going on, but I wanted to show off. And then I realized, okay, this is dragging down the story. Nobody cares who was king and who died and who assassinated, and they definitely don't care about the peasant out in that field because people generally don't unless they're a chosen one. So the little snippets did get worked in eventually as they were relevant, but most of that world building and information stayed behind the scenes up here in the story Bible until it became necessary.
Oh, that's awesome, Jessica. Thank you so much. A
Bravo.
lot of information there, which is great. Thank you, thank you, thank you. You know, I don't want to, take away from that in any way, but sometimes if you work it just right, you can put that peasant in there. Monty Python does it really, really well.
They do.
Absolutely. Oh, Miss Rita, can you expound on this as far as how do you bring in details about your secondary characters without info dumping?
Okay, so 3 simple words: show, don't tell.
Yep.
And Jessica basically said this as well, but their dress, mannerisms, interests, actions can all reveal key things about characters' personalities. For example, again, in The Pirate King and I, there's a sailor who speaks Dutch because his mother's family is from Holland, but this fact isn't revealed until 3/4 of the way into the story because that's when he helps forge a Dutch document. So that's where those skills come into play, and it's done organically, and it's relevant to the story, and that was the time to give that information.
Oh yeah, absolutely, and I think the way that you specifically build your world, it's never done all at once, which is it's wonderful because you just feel yourself sinking into the world. I know that you write pirates, so that wasn't really a pun, but you do feel yourself kind of becoming fully immersed in it gradually, which is it's something really, really great. I think that when you read it back to yourself, sometimes you're kind of blitzing through it, and because you just want to get the revisions done, and you don't really think about, oh, is this moving too fast? Is this paced too much? And of course, using platforms like Wattpad, your audience will tell you if it's moving too fast. Miss Michelle.
Can I add one thing?
Yeah.
I mean, you gave me a great compliment, but I just want to say that I had to work a lot to get to there. I used to be a huge info dumper, and I think when you start writing, most people are, and you just have to train yourself out of that, and you have to hold yourself back. Like Jessica said, just some of that backstory is going to have to stay in your brain, and it may be useful trivia when you get really famous, and you'll give out an extra volume of just trivia behind the scenes type of stuff, but otherwise you might have to leave it off the page, because if you did put in everything, it would drag the story down.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Miss Michelle.
Okay, show don't tell. That was the English Lit class. Bravo, Rita. I share the same view. When I'm describing my secondary characters, I'm subtle to a degree. I like to have a lot of description in my secondary characters, but I don't necessarily overthink that aspect when I'm writing it. I just try to deliver the support characters in a way that is not overdone, yet has enough so that the reader knows the color of hair, the personality, what they do, who they are to the protagonist, how they're going to help her along or him along. All in all, it has to be believable. I don't want you to think that you're reading a book. I want to suck you into my world. Come on in.
Well, that's great that you actually think about, is this believable? Will people buy it, or will they suspend their disbelief and kind of go on this crazy journey that you have laid out?
Right.
Miss Kelly.
Hey. So I definitely have been guilty of the info dump, especially in my first story. However, what I've done to kind of remedy it is I find that leaving readers on the edge of their seat or ending a scene, or specifically a chapter, oh, it keeps falling, ending a chapter right as like a major source of information is about to be revealed is a really good way to intrigue your readers and to avoid the info dump. So you might allow, little sneak peeks and bits of information to come out. But you don't give away the whole thing all in one chapter or all in one scene. So using a nice little cliffhanger to keep your readers wanting more and spreading the information out over several chapters has worked really well for me. And also, I like to incorporate a lot of sensory details and details like Michelle was saying, like the color of their hair, the color of their eyes, maybe how they walk, or, just a small detail so the reader can get a visual of perhaps what they look like and how, they interact with the main characters.
I think it's interesting that you were saying to utilize a cliffhanger in that sense.
Mm-hmm.
Is there, for instance, that you can elaborate on? Because that sounds really interesting.
For sure. And I can tell you, I was typing on the side column. I totally made a mistake the other day while writing, and I was really tired, and I pushed publish on Wattpad, and one of the first comments was like, "Oh my gosh, how did he know that?" Or how'd she know that? And I was like, oh, I totally made a mistake. So my main character was supposed to be like, oh, who are you? And the secondary character was supposed to say her first and last name. And then he'd be like, oh, hey, sucks we're in this situation together. So sure enough, the way I wrote it was the main character, who's also a serial killer and serial stalker, was like, hey, and said her first and last name. And she didn't pick up on it. They're in a very high, stress situation. And so all of a sudden I was like, oh no, now I need to, create a way that he knows her. And, it just got all goofed up. But I ended up being able to use it to my advantage. And so at the end of the last scene and the last sentences, how do you know my name? So now all of a sudden,
it gives you time to think.
Little clues here and there, but all of a sudden, by accident, I came to this dun dun dun.
That's a lot of suspense,
right?
Which is great. Kelly. So if Kelly doesn't, kill off one of her secondary characters, she makes you want to kill yourself with a cliffhanger, which is awesome. That's great.
It's so bad. I would say maybe upwards of like 60 to 75% of my comments are like, how could you leave us like that?
I love doing that.
It is a different form of punishment. That is true. Miss Jessica B. Frye.
Well, the question that I ask myself is, what can I show in this scene and with this information? I like what Kelly was saying, providing little clues. And sometimes, clues that don't drag down the story, of course, but clues that may not be seen as clues at first. And you use those cliffhangers and all to really draw on the interest and keep them from zoning out as you give them key information about the world, the characters, the mythology. As just some added tips, one of the things I've found, though, is that body language and relevant setting and atmosphere as it relates to that particular scene can all be woven in, and it really sets the tone. Instead of saying that a character is sly and cunning, you actually show that, and it's memorable, so that the reader picks up on that and they get all of that essential information without resorting to the most egregious info dumps.
That's great. I love it. Now that we're kind of, at the tail end of the entree, there's something interesting with secondary characters, and some writers do this, some are really opposed to it. But as a panel, individually, do you read spin-offs where a secondary character becomes the protagonist? Why or why not? Miss Rita.
I think if a writer has managed to create a world that I truly enjoy, then I would definitely follow an interesting character off into his or her own adventure. And I kind of feel the same way about it as a writer, too, that if I feel like my main characters have gone through their own stories, but I don't want to leave the world behind, then I would definitely pursue spinning off one of the supporting characters into their own similar but unique story.
I gotcha. Very good. Miss Michelle?
Personally, I have never read one, but I think I may have inadvertently created one with my first book. I love the secondary character that supports the protagonist. It's her BFF. I sort of left the ending so that there's a possibility of her being the protagonist in the next book if I decide to do a sequel, or excuse me, a series to Invoke. But we'll see.
Interesting.
It was not on purpose.
Yeah, it happens. Yeah, I mean, I think you just Kellyanne Blount at something. It was just like,
Yeah.
I'm gonna leave it on it.
Hey,
You're just gonna have to deal with it.
I'm a verb.
Speaking of Kelly.
Yeah, I get really attached to characters, and I get really upset, believe it or not, characters that I like, that other people write. I get really attached to them, and so if there's any way to make the story go on longer, I'm totally down with that. And, you know, I'd obviously sometimes prefer the main character story to keep going, and sometimes I get upset when authors don't write like a 10-book series. However, I find that it's a good way to continue with the author work and the story, and I do find that, especially if I've read a spin-off, I'm way more likely to check out the author's other work as well. So that, to me, kind of opens up doors.
I like that, where, you know, you want to go back to the source, or you want to see, okay, well, I really enjoyed this. What else has this person done? Is it in the same vein? Is it in the same world? Is it even remotely tangent? Yeah,
Right.
absolutely. Miss Jessica.
I love writing stories with spin-offs where the secondary characters become their own protagonists, which probably isn't surprising since then I can use those scenes that I wrote. But as far as reading other spin-offs, yes, if the author is good, I love it. I find that these stories oftentimes showcase an author's skill particularly well, and they can showcase more of the world, alternative perspectives, show greater depth. And, you know, Honoré de Balzac did this with his Human Comedy, and it's this series of stories that are all interwoven with some minor characters having like a story or two, and others having much larger ones, and they're arcing through all of the plots or just having cameos. It's really cool. But even in modern times, we have like the canon Star Wars and Star Trek novels, as well as some of the Doctor Who novels that follow these patterns in taking lesser-known characters and events and making them primary characters. And even here on Wattpad, my friend Carol McDonald is doing something similar with her stories. Taryn Mathrew is doing this with the Summoner stories. And it's just such a wonderful technique to get insight into this world, and you get all of these great stories based off of a world with characters you already love. So you can't lose unless the author sucks, and then it's even more sad.
Yeah, that's when you gotta say setback. Yeah, absolutely.
Yep.
I agree.
Thankfully, I haven't run into that too often. And not on Wattpad. Go figure. It was a Star Wars novel.
Oh, so you had to pay for it. You
I
paid
did.
to be let down.
I paid to be let down. No, well.
Just, oh, man. Oh, it's terrible. It's like non-alcoholic beer. It's
Mhm.
I don't understand it. It's like listening to a porno on the radio. I don't know.
My God.
Anyways, we're
First world
going over
problems.
to Pass the Salt, which is it's kind of our way of giving you an honest observation, opinion, quote, or factoid in 140 characters or less. This makes it tweetable. You can search for them on our hashtag on Twitter. Miss Rita, what do you got for us?
Okay, so this week I kind of struggled to come up with something profound, so my Pass the Salt is related to that. Sometimes it's okay not to have any words. Go for a walk, listen to music, watch a movie, hug a loved one. The words will find you.
Ooh,
That's good.
that's
Rita.
great.
Very nice.
Michelle.
Okay. Mine's from Shakespeare. I'm on a Shakespeare kick lately. If you read book 2, you'll see the opening caption is Shakespeare. Okay. Our doubts are traitors and make us lose the good we oft might win by fearing to attempt.
Ooh.
I
Now,
like
do you think that he plagiarized that, or do you think that it's really William?
That is so William. What are you talking about?
I don't know. Like, there was a
No, he
huge
made that up. He
thing.
was a gifted person.
I'm just saying, there's like a big little controversy on whether his work was authentic or not. I don't know. I don't know a lot
I
about it.
refrain. I don't want to know. Ignorance is
It's-
bliss.
Yeah. Anyways, yeah, you can read about it on Wikipedia. Oh, Miss Kelly.
So my quote is one that I made up myself, and it is, every character should play an important role in your story. If their role isn't important, do you really need them?
Do they really need their head? No, they don't need it. Let's get them out of here. Miss Jessica.
Well, I decided for my past assault I would use a little bit of what I'd said before, that secondary characters are always primary characters in their own stories.
Yes, I love that. It's
Like
so great. As we wrap up to a portion of the broadcast, which we call Boom, Check Please, we want to highlight something that I'm not sure exactly what or how much information she can divulge, but Jessica B. Fry is a part of this writing group, which right now is known as the Wattpad class of 2014. Jessica, what do you got for us?
All right, well, the Wattpad class of 2014, we're now known as the Wattpadres, and we are starting...
Very diverse. Very diverse.
That's right. Very much so. We're starting Twitter chats on Tuesday, October 13th. You can follow at Amber K. Bryant or the Wattpadres on Twitter, and we'll be having more information. We're going to be doing a makeover for your Wattpad profile. That's one of the things you can win, and we'll be announcing all the details for that on Tuesday, October 13th at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. That's why I write this down, so I don't forget things.
Yeah, it helps. It definitely helps. We'll definitely be looking forward to it. We, as soon as you have, more information, if there's a link or anything like that, we'll be more than happy to retweet that or post it wherever you want. I do kind of want to let you know, Wattpad Nation, what we got in store for you. The next episode, episode 28, we are going to be welcoming back one of our favorites. Her name, she goes by C-Funk3 on Wattpad. We also know her as Camille Eckert, and she is going to be visiting us next week, like I said, for episode 28, Breakup, Breakdown, Breakthrough. And here's the little blurb that kind of goes with it. Sometimes the toughest times create the best art. How do you channel the negativity and make something beautiful? And we're really, really excited to bring that to you. We have a lot of really cool stuff heading your way, particularly something that was brought to my attention by the panel. So the panel is to thank for this idea. But we will be doing a Halloween episode at the end of the month. Now, I'm really hoping that the rotating panelists do watch these broadcasts at some point in time during the week, if not live. But here is the gauntlet that I will throw down for you.
Oh, boy.
We are going to have as many people on that panel as possible, just like we did at the end of Season 1. Now, I'm really hoping that everybody gets creative with costumes, and I will give somebody extra bonus points if they come as a character from another panelist's work on Wattpad. I think that would be really awesome. So, kind of, have that in the back of your head. I kind of want to come as, like, Rita Kovach or something. I don't know. We'll see what happens. It'll be really interesting. If you haven't seen Rita's Twitter profile picture,
oh my gosh,
go and get the crap scared out of you. It is going to be awesome. I am just going to keep plugging that no matter what. We're about 7 minutes left. I do not think that we've gotten any of questions, not unless, panel, you've seen them on the YouTube chat. Let's see. I haven't seen any questions, but you can always use our hashtag during the week or the comment section down below, and we will answer these questions in real time. If not, no, I'm not going to say what the Packers score is, Kelly. We actually have our own private chat on the panel, and as you can see, Kelly is sporting the Cheesehead paraphernalia.
Woo-hoo!
Yes. Have you seen Pitch Perfect 2?
Duh.
Okay, so that was like a big thing. Like, I had no idea. I haven't seen it yet, but I've heard a little bit of the backstory behind it, in the sense that the entire starting lineup, I guess, for the Green Bay Packers, what they did for, I believe, their significant others and their wives and so forth, they brought them to a practice, and then they actually did the final scene, like kind of like a flash mob for their, significant others, from the final scene of the first Pitch Perfect movie. So when the producers heard about that, they were just like, are you serious? That really happened? And that's kind of how they came on. So, random little tidbit for you. We are doing something. This is, right now, it's going to be after episode 30. Will probably be, I want to say, episode 35, maybe 37. It is going to be an episode that will have a mature rating on the video. So it will be entitled Wattpad After Dark. Now here's the thing. If you are using YouTube in any sort of, like if you have a profile or anything like that, if your profile says that you are under the age of 18, you will not be able to view that video. So I'm just kind of giving you forewarning. If you want to see that, like I said, it's down the road, but this is fair warning. We are going to be talking about the mature stamp that is on Wattpad and everything that's tied to it. So that will be very exciting. And the fact that we have all of these poets on Wattpad, we are going to be doing our poetry episode right after episode 34, I believe. I think it's episode 35. So definitely keep a lookout for that. We will have Sir Owen Glenn on, which will be fantastic. And yes, Kelly, I see your hand up, your digital hand up. Kelly has a question.
Okay, so I have a favor to ask for those of you who have read Captured. It was recently optioned for film, which is super exciting, and I have set up a profile on the If List website, and it has Captured there as well as a list of the characters, and if you could go on there and vote or propose a character for each of the main characters, that would be awesome. So if you think that Jennifer Lopez should play Mrs. Vega, you can either vote because she's already up there, or if you have someone new in mind, feel free to propose them as well. But it's a really great way to kind of garner who fans want to see in the movie, and I would super appreciate it. The link's on my Wattpad page as well as pinned to my profile on Twitter.
That's awesome, Kelly. Congratulations. That is amazing.
Thanks.
I'm actually gonna sign up for. I'm gonna vote for Michelle Hayes and see how many people log on and vote for her. That'd be awesome. So, Wattpad Nation, that brings us to the close of our 27th episode. Thank you so much for being a part of this, continuing to come back week in and week out. We will definitely be looking forward to episode 28. And in the meantime, just let us know if you have any questions, comments, concerns. We'd love to hear them. You can find us all on Wattpad. You can find us all on Twitter. We have a Facebook page. We are on Instagram. You can find us pretty much anywhere. We love you to death. Thank you for joining us tonight. Ladies, if you please say good night.
Night.
Good night, guys. Thanks for watching.